morning. I think, Amy, you can hear us. Good morning. Welcome to
Good morning.
the Shasta Regional Board of Directors meeting. Today is 23rd of May. Thank you all for adjusting your schedules to come in at 9 o'clock. Obviously, I have another commitment. We have our city employees appreciation lunch today, and they have a dunk tank. Could it be any colder today? Jeez. We have some visitors here. Before we get started, I haven't seen you here before. I'm sorry. You are?
I'm Natalie. I work for Caltrans.
Work for Caltrans. Thank you very much.
Alex Gray, work for Caltrans.
Yeah.
Kelly Babcock, I'm the transit coordinator for Caltrans.
Ella Berg, I intern for Tenessa.
Oh, great, great. Nice to have you all. Thank you so much. Okay, Amy, go ahead and do a roll call.
What about that side of the room?
You know all them. I'm sorry. We've already talked. That's my fault.
Yeah,
She's on her way to Shingletown or
I'm with Shingletown Medical Center representing the East County.
she's got an interest in RABA. Sir?
Richard Custer.
I'll introduce him during staff introductions.
Oh, okay. You work for him now?
Yeah.
Let him introduce you. All right, Amy, go ahead and do the roll call, please.
Good morning, everybody. We'll start out with the roll call. Board Member Audette.
Here.
Board Member Cry.
Here.
Board Member Eisenbeis.
Here.
Board Member Gallagher.
Here.
Board Member Jones.
Here.
Board Member Kellstrom.
Here.
Chair Mazzano.
Here.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we can stand for the pledge.
Is there something ironic about that? Come
I
on.
just love that we moved the time and now we have.
And Mr. Gallagher will lead us in the pledge.
Yes, salute and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Teagan, you're up with staff introductions.
All right, well, we were able to get the building work done, but apparently we can't have the landscaping done. But good morning, board. Sean Teagan, Executive Director here at SRTA. With us is legal counsel John Canny. In the audience with us is Senior Transportation Planner Jennifer Paula, Chief Fiscal Officer Jessica Carlson. Other staff are in their offices here at the other side. Amy Lindsay, our Administrative Associate, and Michael Cooker are helping run the meeting. And I'm also happy to introduce, starting this week, is Richard Custer. Richard Custer is joining us as an accounting clerk apprentice. He comes to us from Shasta College's Accounting Service Employment Training or ASSET program. Through that program, students are provided both educational training as well as on-the-job experience. So we're happy to have Richard joining us to learn ins and outs of the accounting profession for the next 18 months, while also getting to benefit from some ongoing fiscal duty support, which I know a number of us board members, fiscal policy have talked about as well. So with that, introducing Richard for the board, and he'll be joining us for at least the next 18 months.
Were you ever part of the 7th Cavalry?
No.
Last name is Custer, right?
Yes. Could be a link, Patrick.
It could be some lineage down back in the day. No workshop today and no presentations. Amy, is there anybody online for public comment?
No, I do not have any.
There's nobody here for public comment, so let's move on. Consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the agency votes on the motion to approve. Approve action minutes of the April 25th, 2024 SRTA Board of Directors meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Kellstrom, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Did you get that, Amy?
Yep.
Mr.
Thank you.
Kellstrom and Mr. Jones.
Yes, thank you.
Let's move on to the regular calendar. Item number 8, to receive the Executive Director's report. It's an information only item.
Thank you, Chair. So there's a couple of things I just want to be able to highlight. One is that this week, myself and then board member Audette attended CalCog, which is the California Association of Councils of Governments. They held a legislative day yesterday in which we got to meet to hear a bunch of updates related to state budgets, meet with individuals from the governor's office, Assembly Transportation Committee, individuals from industry, others that are familiar with the legislative process and how to navigate that, as well as receive a bunch of updates related to things going on at the statewide level that may have an impact to regional agencies, transportation agencies, councils of governments, and the like. It was an informative session. A couple highlights I want to have from the meeting is that we had received updates on a proposed bill by Assemblymember Ward that would potentially require new income categories to the regional housing need allocation process, which this is the process whereby the state, through the Housing and Community Development Department, identify the potential future housing need for a 8-year period. And the local agencies must then, through their housing elements, update those to then zone enough land to accommodate that future need if there is future need identified that's not already within your zoning plans of the housing element. For SRTA, this is important because our population housing forecast for a regional transportation plan must be consistent with those forecasts and those plans. So it is something that we'll be tracking. We understand that this has support straight from the governor's office, so it's very likely this bill will get approved. It does present a number of potential challenges of how to deal with the new income categories, which is extremely low income and acutely low income. On the acutely low income side, specifically, you're dealing with homelessness and homeless individuals. So there's a lot that is in that bill in terms of how it affect the process. We will continue to monitor it, but it's something that we'll keep an eye on because those may be income categories we have to include in our future regional planning with our future regional transportation plans. During one of the breaks, I had a chance to chat with James Hacker, who is a deputy secretary, cabinet secretary for the governor's office that oversees transportation, housing, broadband, and a few other items. Our discussion focused on the challenge we've had with the governor's proposed budget with cuts to programs, while at the same time, state agency directors have said that the state is still committed to delivering those prior approved projects without really any solutions proposed on a number of those, especially on the transportation side. So I asked him and talked with him about, hey, what conversations are actually taking place between the governor's office, the legislative members, as well as the California Transportation Commission on the active transportation program and some other programs, and what solutions they've come up with. I've encouraged him and gave him a couple of suggestions of how they could look ahead, especially delaying the deadlines for certain grant applications. So that way, as the state figures out how to right-size their budget, we can right-size our applications for requests in a timely manner. I specifically mentioned that some of the grant deadlines right now are troublesome for our cities and counties because if they still require us to submit those now, but then later say, hey, well, we don't really have the funding or think we do, and we're gonna have to delay when those awards will be made. I've said our projects are already over budget because our public works departments and our planning departments assume a very specific construction schedule that we have. And we have to assume certain funding. So if you're now saying that it's delayed, these estimates and the assumptions for those projects are already blown out of the water because of that. So he said, point taken, we'll go back and we'll talk with folks about that and work forward. So hopefully that comes out of that. We've shared also with a number of regional agencies who are already providing letters to James and his department as well as some others. So hopefully at least they will consider that and we may see something come out of it.
Do you feel that though, or do you feel it's just lip service?
I felt in that context in the discussions because it was encouraging that he did at least acknowledge they'd had a couple of conversations about the challenge, but didn't recognize some of the issues that the local agencies face on that. I felt at least it was, and I also feel that we've been having discussion with California Transportation Commission staff and others, and with letters going in, that at least they will have those conversations. Now, whether that results in the delays for the application periods, we will see. There could be things that are a legislative item that will need an amendment in the timing, but we'll see. It at least meant we have an additional contact that we can start working with in the future to be able to call up. And what I did find promising out of the meeting is that Bill Higgins, the director of CalCog, Keith Dunn with the Suffolk Counties Coalition, others have said James is very open to receiving calls and having conversations in that department with that group on transportation. So
Also, you have to remember, if we can give them tangible information, they can use that to make the arguments. Because sometimes this is a freight train that's
You
moving.
have to have that information. They'd have to.
No, don't assume.
yeah.
Do not assume.
like I said, they don't.
Make a brash assumption.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I missed this guy's position, but if he doesn't understand that there's timelines with the local construction organization, then he shouldn't be in his seat.
So no.
Like, this is
So
not-
that's not what I said. So
No, I'm not arguing what you said. I'm just taking information that Sean, I promise, Vanessa, I'm not. But my point is, if we're having to tell this guy how the operation is, then he shouldn't be in his seat.
Then it's not gonna
He
matter.
absolutely knows how it works. They know the system. They orchestrate the system. The budget is all manipulated. Like, we better wake up to what is actually going on, because if this guy at his level doesn't understand how Caltrans works, then he's in the wrong seat on the bus. He should step down. Because this is the problem that we in our region should have to tell this guy how it works is unacceptable to me. That is a problem for me personally, and it's why I push back so hard on some of these things. It's like, honestly, we've got to tell them that we're going to have a problem. They understand how the budget cycle works and how grants work and all that. Because if he doesn't, again, my point would be, get out of the seat and let somebody who actually would admit that they understand how the system works and work with us in that realm, instead of playing like, I don't understand how it works. I won't accept that.
Let
I won't do it.
clarify.
Can I just clarify that? So again, it's legislators that are making these decisions. And so, and same for him. He already agrees with us, already understands that. But it's a different power that they have if they have the agencies that have a letter that say, hey, this is the issue. Now he knows that. And he can take that to the positions of people that are driving an agenda that need something to happen. But now they have our input. It's not just his opinion and what he knows and the laws that are written. It's actually tangibly people on the ground saying, you will screw this up for us. It will be over budget, which triggers other issues, which triggers other issues. So again, there are lots of different regulations that we're talking about. How do you prioritize and communicate what matters? Well, when the people on the ground tell you and reinforce for this guy what it is, the message that he's trying to get forward, that just helps them, is all I'm saying. It's not this guy that doesn't know, it's this guy that needs, it's just same as if you have a constituent. If you know something's right or wrong, but a constituent says, here's the story that matches everything you're saying, now you have really good ammunition to be able to really drive your position forward with an example. So So I understand what your frustration on this specific issue, it wasn't that. Can I just speak in English of the ATI issue?
Go ahead.
Like, so that we all understand what that actually means? Or do you need to continue?
Very understandable.
I just have one other item on
Yeah,
legislative.
I'll do it after.
No problem. Also, we heard updates on legislation bills, so a couple of updates for everyone here. AB 2535 was a bill proposed by Bonta that proposed changes to the trade quarter enhancement program. Happy to mention that bill has died. It has died in appropriations committee. It no longer exists and will not move forward. So we don't need to do any action further there. On AB 2290, which was a bill by Assembly Member Friedman, which proposes several changes, including how Class 3 bikeways can be funded. The board took an opposed unless amended position. We learned it's also recently been amended again, and staff will be reviewing those amendments to see if those meet and would meet our requirements. On that bill, that had other items related to impacts to Caltrans, which we have no opinion on, so that was why we took more of an amended position rather than just a straight oppose. So we will review that. If a letter is needed, you'll be seeing one of those. An interesting last minute thing that we learned was Assembly Bill 6, which is a bill proposed by Assemblymember Friedman last year, had died in committees and had been put on a 2-year bill. That bill was essentially gutted and the text was updated. It is troublesome. It proposes a number of changes to the regional transportation planning process, which impacts us as a region, and it would impact locals potentially as well. And proposes giving the California Air Resources Board more control over a regional plan, especially in the early process with technical methodology, the timeframe that they have to review, and does not, and may potentially expand their opinion of, instead of just, yes, it meets the intent, or no, it meets the intent, it may broaden it because it leaves loose language. This item was discussed also during the CalCog board meeting, in which the CalCog board voted to take an unopposed position on this bill. So we are already part of CalCog, so we will already be a part of that position that CalCog is making. If there is a need for additional letters independently from all the different partners, Bill will let us know. But just to know at this point, that is something that CalCog is taking on straight away to address a number of the issues, and proposes that the regions have a discussion with the Area Resources Board about some of their concerns with the process. If I can real quick, and then we can move to the other item where Tanessa can provide some clarity to ALI. I just wanted to highlight that today there is a Ride with Transportation Official Day taking place tonight from 5:30 to 7. It's an informative bike ride with Reading Public Works Director Mike Webb and Caltrans District Director Dave Moore. It's about an 8-mile ride for folks to come and visit various transportation projects in and around downtown Reading. The meeting location is at the River Trail parking lot at the south end of the Diesel Horse Bridge. For those that are interested, that is the end of my
I'll
presentation.
be going on that ride, and our public works director says it's going to be a very fast 8-mile ride.
I could believe
I'll
that.
be listening to the music in my helmet as I ride the 8 miles. I'm not keeping up with that young guy. Before Tanessa, having attended a CalCog meeting, several of them, and to your point, the CalCog meeting where we get all of the Sean Tegans from the state to come there, and all of the Tanessa Audettes from the surrounding areas in the state that participate in programs like this, to go there and come together with a unified position. That's what's important, that we all come together to this individual and let him know how we feel and what we expect from him. And I think that works to a degree. And so I encourage that, and we'll continue to participate in that at whatever level we can. And by having people there like Tanessa and Sean to express our issues, which are not unlike the other communities in this state. We're all suffering from the same issues, but we're getting our message out there. And at this point, I was talking with Mr. Jones earlier, if we were Sacramento or Fresno or San Francisco, we'd probably carry a lot more weight than we do as a county of 200,000, 180,000 people. So as I will agree with Mr. Jones, is they don't care what we think, but we still have to keep trying. So with that, I will defer to your breakdown, Ms. Audette, on the legislation.
I just want to put it into perspective. So there's a thing called RENA, which is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. So every, I don't know, ours is different.
It's every 8 years.
Every 8 years, you have to basically, it says, this is how, the state says you need this much housing in your county, city, whatever the municipality is. So let's say it's for Shasta County, we've got, what was it, like 2,000, whatever, we need like
Roughly about 5,000 total.
new homes being built within that 8-year period. And so other agencies that are in that room are the ones that have to like push that to require that. Ours are our own. It's just our county. Ours, we don't have a like a MPO that does that. But the point is that in order to meet this goal, which all of these areas are like, there's no way, we can't force people to build houses. You can zone it, we can all zone it, but we can't force them, and we don't have redevelopment dollars to give them better, incentives and stuff to build. So the state's requiring you to build homes, but doesn't give you any tools to actually do that. But then there's like penalties if you don't do it and whatnot. So this new bill, which I think 3093 and Ward is the author and he was there, it basically takes that low income area and creates two different new zoning things. Right now in the city of Reading, if we want to build those pallet shelters, we have an emergency ordinance that allows us to sort of forego some rules to create this space. This would now zone for that. So you will now have homelessness zoning. So you can zone for pallet shelters, you can zone for whatnot. And it means that it doesn't come with the grant, with the wraparound services and all this type of stuff. You could just zone for it. So that is going to create just, I think, many things that we don't currently have as an issue, or that this temporary thing would create. I mean, to me, this is very scary. And so that's why I just wanted to say it in plain English, like we use a lot of
That'd be
acronyms,
great.
and I'm literally writing acronyms as we go just to figure out what they're saying in plain English. What this means is they will create spaces in your cities where you zone for homeless. Without anything else. So that's housing first on steroids, in my opinion. So, as I don't know if you know, the latest numbers are that housing first without any requirements do not lead to success. It leads to hotels being trashed, it leads to other things. So not having services along with people that are in that condition is not safe for anybody. So this is definitely something to watch. I mean, I would think that we would want to write a letter opposing that and putting in our feedback of just, because there's nothing to say, like, this is how this is gonna work, this is how it has worked, here's what the consequences are going to be of that. I mean, they program and do all their consulting for everything else. I don't know why we wouldn't have consulting on this as well. So I would encourage that we oppose that.
And what bill is that?
It's called AB 3093. And listen, if CalCog, who represents everybody within the state, has concerns, we should have concerns.
Let me ask a quick question. Vanessa, is there a provision in there that addresses CEQA?
No, you don't have to deal with CEQA. No,
Wow.
it does not, because CEQA would exist when you actually go to build it. This is just the zoning for it. We would just now create zones, like there would just be a zone for that. I mean, I'm sure there's ways to make that work, but on its face, without any type of anything else, so, you know, you could go build yourself some pallet shelters, put them up there, be like, that's for homeless, and that's it, and you know.
I think the hierarchy is like toxic waste dump, and then that type of zoning would kill property values equally.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can I, so is the state gonna tell the city what zone and where and how?
No,
No, we'll get to pick that.
no, so what,
Well, that's what they're telling you today, but they haven't passed the law yet, so.
No, they did. They did, because
passed the
Prop
law.
1 was passed, and Prop 1, it deals a lot with this.
Okay, well,
So they tried it with surplus land act,
if I
they
can.
tried it with that, now they're gonna zone for it.
So I love the people of Shasta Lake. Tina knows that. I love being in Shasta Lake. I love everything about it. We went to a Cal Cities event there. Thank you for hosting Shasta Lake. It was wonderful. But Cal Cities is full send on telling us they vilify people like me and my wife who made some money and reinvested in passive income so we could do other things with our lives.
Correct.
And we invested in housing, multiple family housing and a commercial building. So, but now, because the evil people like Deanna and myself commoditized housing, I don't know if Tina will agree, and I'm not asking you to, but their person that they brought up and put on Zoom to tell us about how we're supposed to do housing literally vilified those of us who actually took some private money and invested in, and we provide actually really pretty decent housing within the city of Reading, Cottonwood, and Red Bluff. Now, the problem I have when we talk housing, and Sean brought it up, so I feel like the floor is open, you have Cal Cities, because of who they allow to present, saying commoditizing it was a problem, but that's what the state's doing with Block 7 and the other K2 development. We're funding all that. We are all funding that, and it's gonna end up in somebody's private hand eventually, but we're gonna continue to subsidize that, would be my guess, which is why I have a problem with transportation as well. But this is where we're going as a state, and I don't give a rip what they say in the meetings. They put it on full display with that gal who was their housing expert, and
Why do you think they're leaving League of Cities all throughout Orange County? Because of that.
out of her mouth said,
Yeah,
you will comply.
yeah, League of Cities.
It's not a whether we
Chair,
get a
Chair,
chance.
can we get back to-
So my point is, they're forcing an agenda down our throats, and they're doing it through bills that tell us we're gonna be able to plan for that when Cal Cities isn't interested. They'll say one thing and they don't do anything to actually stop these bills from being passed because they don't have the ability. We don't have, we as Californians don't have an ability to stop what's happening at the legislative level right now. It's impossible. They're super majority. they're they're bent on housing first. It is what it is, and we can work around and we can act like we've got some kind of say, or we could write another letter. I promise you that it's,
All
right
right,
now,
well,
it's a lost cause.
At a minimum, Sean,
And it's driving a lot
based
of
on Ms. Audette's recommendation, put it on the agenda for the next meeting. We don't do an item 12 here, like we do at the council, to propose a letter with our position.
Okay. Yep.
And include some of Mr. Gallagher's.
And I'll also,
Well, and
Probably wouldn't sign it anyways, Mark.
I'll also follow up with Mr. Higgins as well, CalCog, to, get a sense on, what types of comments we can provide from the discussion that the CalCog board has had as well.
that'd be great.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay.
Thank you for your work, Tanessa, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
I'm not mad at you.
I'm happy to leave the League of Cities too. We should talk about that as well.
There was a number of questions, concerns during the board meeting, so CalCog was concerned as well, so.
Throwing money away.
Okay, let's move on to item 10. On this item, this came before us before, and I've asked you all to come back. It was my position after that last meeting where we did what we did, that perhaps we needed a little more information. I've been on this board for 3 years now, and it's a very complicated place to be, if you will, if you're not really versed in transportation. And in reaching out to surrounding areas, we have a letter from the Siskiyou County Local Transportation Commission, and I just want to highlight paragraph 3. It says our region currently has one passenger train with a northern terminus in Dunsmuir in the middle of the night, requiring passengers to wait multiple hours for a connection with public transit services. Although not immediately addressed with your project, it would provide options for our agencies to collaborate on improving rail and transit connections further north in the future, once established in Shasta County. Then we have a letter from Nevada, the Nevada County Transportation Commission. I'll direct you to the second paragraph, where it reads, the previous 2 state rail plans identified the need for integrated intercity bus transportation connections between Reading and Sacramento by 2032. The development of the North State Intercity Bus to Rail Plan will ensure that the needs of the NSSR members are considered and help to develop context-appropriate solutions that can guide recommendations to Caltrans and the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. And finally, a letter from Caltrans, I draw here, from Kathy, and I'll direct you to the 4th paragraph. If SRTA returns this sustainable grant funding, then the ramifications would be still needing a tangible product like a planning study if any funds have been spent. And we have spent funds. I think we spent about $45,000 already on this process. And then go to the last paragraph. Not completing the North State Intercity Bus to Rail grant will have a negative impact on SRTA on future grant cycles. Here's my concern. If we don't do this and Caltrans takes the position that other people want to work harder at spending their money, then we're going to be left out in the cold. And I know that we've got a grant in works right now. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've got a $700,000 grant
That is correct.
application out there that could be in jeopardy. And if you look at this whole project, and I'll let Sean carry us through it, we're looking into the future with this thing. And we know that, we all have to know that our transportation needs are going to change in the future. Certainly with development in this area and a growth in population as they get tired of fighting traffic in the Bay Area and they want to come up here to God's country. Our needs are going to change. And to look into the future, to forecast what we might need, I think is important. And the fact that we've invested substantial time and money in this, I hate to have to pay Caltrans back. That's just the way I feel about it. So Sean, if you would lead us through the history of this and see if we can't look at some of our recommendations.
Yes, sir. Happy to do that here briefly. The staff report and the attachments have a number of items that have been provided for the board, giving our history. While I'll do a brief summary. SRTA has been working with regional transportation agencies across the North State as part of the North State Super Region Alliance to work on a number of transportation issues that really sometimes are beyond any one little jurisdiction and region. Our focus as part of that alliance is identifying existing services, community needs, and challenges today and over the next 20 or more years. Our super region partners have taken the lead on some of these efforts. For example, has worked on a number of items related on the 99 corridor. Nevada County Transportation Commission has taken on studies to study induced travel in rural areas and take on tools that the state uses to be able to make a case that they're not appropriate. We worked on a number of efforts on across the board. We write letters of support on projects to support each other's different regional needs. And one area that has been an ongoing challenge is regional transportation between regions. And along that, generally, SRTA is taking kind of the lead a little bit along the I-5 corridor, Butte County Associate Governments along the 99 corridor, and Lake APC and Mendocino along the 101 corridor. And since 2015, SRTA and partners have looked at some of these different issues related to interregional transportation, between regions. In December 2020, staff had presented to the board at that time an idea to pursue competitive grant funding focused on a study related to what we call technically, from a technical term, intercity passenger rail and complementary bus and intercity bus connections. The need was identified because existing region-to-region connections have limitations, including inconvenient schedules, unreliability, poor on-time service, confusing ticket purchasing, among other things. Additionally, state planning efforts have provided little opportunity for input or the study of the needs of the North State region. Those studies have made some broad assumptions, but when we ask for what's the data that goes into it, there's not really much provided back. There's no real solid regional context for that. So part of the goal of this study as proposed in 2020 was to conduct a study that provide regional analysis to the issue and identify context appropriate options for the future. These are long-term options. When we're talking about passenger rail, this is a long-term thing to study. The board of directors at the time approved staff to apply for a grant, which was awarded in summer 2021. The grant application scope of work was also developed significantly with input from the Butte County to align with their efforts that they have ongoing and have for some time to study and look at extending daytime passenger rail service between Chico and Sacramento. They have recently completed some other studies that are looking at that to make that happen by 2032. The scope of the work is meant to address several key elements. Developing strategies for improving regional bus services to nearby rail hubs, which would include the future rail hub in Chico, as well as looking at connections to Sacramento and or the Bay Area. Studying the demand for future passenger rail services and evaluate the timing and potential future daytime passenger rail to the Reading area and the practical steps that may be needed for this to occur along the entire corridor, which is going to require state involvement regardless. Also, to assess the status of existing underutilized rail infrastructure and provide rough estimates related to those possible costs for state consideration. Lastly, a key item and a challenge has been representation. The study will look at existing challenges with representation, exploring potential changes that may need to happen. The sure North State representation exists if and when services are expanded. I know at this last meeting this last week, RABA had approved their transit manager, John Ando, to be on the San Joaquin Valley Rail Committee to have representation related to some of the intercity bus transportation services and inform that process, which is the first. Huh?
Mike's gonna be going with them too.
Yes, I heard that
We have to make it-
gonna be there as well. But that's probably the first time we've had true North State representation down with San Juan JPA in their processes. One thing I did want to address, that's a question that's come up that I feel needs to clarify, is related to infrastructure improvements. This study is not proposing the SRTA get into the business of building passenger rail infrastructure in other regions. The rail hubs in Sacramento and the large regions are already managing those in coordination with the state, mostly by Amtrak or SACRT, for example, in the Sacramento region. However, the study could find that certain accessibility other needs exist to ensure that real-time service, if found applicable at a certain time frame, is possible, and that information would be shared with CalSTA, Caltrans, Amtrak, San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, Union Pacific Railroad, and others that manage those rail hubs to consider those needs at the appropriate time. And the study may identify along the corridor certain needs at certain stops where there may be some improvements if desired. And it may also mean that we might submit letters of support or support grant applications in the future if passenger was to happen and if those other improvements were identified and then pursued in each applicable region. With that kind of summarizes the key points I wanted to highlight from the questions that the chair provided. With that, I'll hand it over to the board for discussion and then answering questions related to steps in the process related to the recommendation items.
So our discussion is to consider rescinding the action that we took at the meeting where we voted not to approve the technical services agreement. I'm opening up for discussion.
Can I, just for clarity, so basically, we're a regional transportation agency, there's other regional transportation agencies, but this would be basically finding a way to create some communication, some strategy of how we all connect ourselves all the way through, between different regions.
Correct.
Right, so similarly, if it was like, we have RABA in Reading, but we want to serve Shasta Lake and Anderson, we would do a study to see, should we connect, how would we connect, where would we connect, what facilities would need to be there, what different routes could you take, like, it's basically a study to say, how do we connect? We're not paying for Shasta Lake or to Anderson to have improvements, we're just doing, this is a study to say, how do we connect Siskiyou County to Shasta County to down to Sacramento County to these hubs, like place people from MODOC, how can they get here to Reading, then from Reading get to other regions where they need to go?
Correct.
It's just a study
Correct.
of like how, because regional agencies are responsible for their own improvements or what they would spend their budgets on, but there's no studies that actually connect us. So this would be to create something that actually figures out the strategy and the plan of how we would be connected if we could, and then if we were gonna do anything to our own agents, to our own region, we would be talking about that.
Correct. And the other thing that is that with rail service, I mean, that's Union Pacific Railing, right? So any conversation there for improvements or future service, that's a whole state level discussion of Union Pacific and Amtrak and whoever. The idea here is to understand what's the need, when might those services be appropriate into the future? Make sure that information is included in the state planning processes, which have been pretty light in terms of their review, other than some kind of really very high level basic assumptions. Not only will we look at passenger rail, but we'll also continue to look at the bus transportation services as well that exist across the board that we coordinate. For example, services to veterans have been an ongoing need with a veterans clinic and having to coordinate with Tehama County Transportation Commission and their track system, the veterans of Tehama County up into the Shasta County to then connect to the services because the VA clinic themselves don't go out to those areas, so the other services. So that'd be another example of, yes, where you've got a larger issue of a service need. This is looking at from passenger rail and the ongoing bus side.
So I know that Tehama had called our Senate office and even our city and asked for letters of support to talk about more passenger rail to get from Tehama to Chico to Reading. So would this also probably help with some of that type of research as far as like, what is the passenger, like who would be riding, what, all that type of things, like what is the market in Siskiyou, coming into Reading and then moving on to.
Correct, and this study would include those partners. So we would see all of the different county partners, the regional transportation planning agencies, definitely along the whole I-5 corridor and the corridor there, part of the study, so that we actually capture all of those other needs, what questions have come up. I know, for example, in Tehama County, there's been discussions about whether or not the city of Red Bluff wants to rebuild their, rail station as a hub for transit and rail and other stuff. If that's on them, but this study would help them in that process. So this isn't just benefiting us, it's benefiting all of the partners along the corridor.
And at the end of this project, the goal then is to have the information available to make the decisions regarding transportation in the future.
Correct.
Any further discussion? None being requested, I'll entertain a motion to extend our voting action of February 29th, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Vanessa makes the motion to rescind. Anybody want to second that? We have a second from Shasta Lake City. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, it carries. We have 2 opposed, the rest are ayes. We will rescind that action. Let's move on to item 3, Sean, in the recommendations.
So 3 and 4 could be combined the way that they're set up. And John Kenny's here to also advise on that, but we would recommend that the board then approve the contract with AECom. We've already been through the procurement process. They've already been reviewed, they've already been scored, and they were the recommended consultant with experience with a number of the services. The contract would be for a not to exceed amount of $189,956.43 in change, with a contract term ending August 30th, 2025. And then recommendation for is just for me to make any minor administrative amendments to the TSA as appropriate.
Thank you very much.
And then we'll see this report. When would we see this report?
The board will see this at multiple steps throughout the process. So you'll see kind of what we have in terms of what's the existing information that's provided, what are some of the recommendations we're seeking to put there from the process, and then the draft report will be made available, and the final report will be adopted and then submitted.
And then the letters that we got from Siskiyou and from these other,
Nevada.
What is it, Nevada?
Nevada County.
Nevada County and Siskiyou,
Uh,
these are veterans, and this is also, I mean, I see the board of supervisors listed at the bottom of this as their commissioners. Is that who's sending this letter? Is it their county board of supervisors that are saying that?
Which letter we were referring to?
For the Siskiyou County Local Transportation Commission.
That is their list of commissioners representing county and any cities in their region.
In their region?
Yes, correct.
Does
Yes.
that mean that they also will be weighing in on these workshops and stuff as far as?
Yes. I'm gonna have Jen answer that in terms of the details.
Hi, Jennifer Paul, I'm Senior Transportation Planner. In the past, when we did the North State Intercity business plan or feasibility study, I did go to the many, up and down the I-5 corridor to present to those as requested by the staff, if they were interested in it. So if the Siskiyou County Transportation Commission is interested in having an update on it, then yes, we would be willing to.
I'm just wondering if they're gonna weigh in on it.
They are not a partner on the grant, or on the TSA grant when it was written, but the North State Super Region as a whole was.
Oh, so the whole North State as a region will get to have input on this?
Yes.
So it's not just us, but we're gonna get partnership from all of them as well?
Correct.
Okay,
And with the focus being on the I-5 corridor, because 101,
yeah, that makes sense.
that has been taken care of.
Great, thank you very much. So I need a motion to approve staff's recommendations on the item 3 and 4.
Make a motion.
Motion for Mr. Fry, second.
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Audette, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
I'm opposed.
Mr. Gallagher's opposed, Amy. Motion carries. Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time. Let's move on to item 11. You're up, Mr. Teagan. You want us to come in later, earlier, or what?
Well, this is, I think, board member Adette and Crybrook brought this up, so, just real quick, at the last board meeting, it was requested to have an item to discuss meeting earlier in the day, for our board meetings. I summarized a few things here in the staff report. A keynote that I found is, nearly half of our sister agencies, as I would call them, meet in the mornings between 9 and 10 a.m. typically. Otherwise, they try to meet later in the day because of all the representatives and the meetings that they have. And that's been part of what our history had been in the past of meeting later in the day. I will add that if we do move to earlier in the day, that will reduce the number of conflicts that we do potentially see in the future for future meetings that we have. Specifically, I know that the county has different meetings now that they have in the evenings, and that may happen periodically as well for the cities. Looking at that, staff would recommend a 9:30 a.m. start time for in the morning. But with that, I'll leave it up to board to decide what you would like to do and then which meeting to start the new revised schedule with. If you want to meet earlier in the day than what we have right now, which has been 2:30 in the afternoon.
I make a motion, we made it 6 a.m.
I vote.
Protein drink.
We meet at 9, every possible meeting.
Can we do the 9:30? I mean, I saw the 9:30 is just so that they prep before you guys get here at 9?
No, we get here at 8 in terms.
They stay here the
It
night
says,
before
did you
and
be
do
here at 9:30? They made a recommendation for.
9:30, but most of our meetings last 3 hours and I don't want to take a break for lunch.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
This meeting never goes 3 hours.
Yes, it
Yes, it
Oh, are
does.
you
Yes,
kidding
it
me?
does.
Yeah.
30 at night.
Oh, that's because we
Hey,
had training.
Kelstrom responded, so like, you got Chris to beat
I
his
don't think we've
fist.
ever gotten out of here past 5.
Yeah,
Don't make me come over there and kick your chair.
so you could reach.
Okay, you guys want to do
I'm fine with
9:30?
9. I'm fine with 9.
9 o'clock.
Nine's better. Is that okay?
That is totally fine.
Okay.
If we ever have a conflict, the chair and I will meet and we'll have an updated.
We have the motion from Mr. Crowley and Vanessa, who second?
I'm happy to second, but did you need another part of that to say when we start that?
So I would request that the board also identify whether we want to start at the next meeting, which is June 20th, or if we schedule it at a later.
Yeah, June 20th.
Absolutely,
Start
June
right away.
Okay, first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Gallagher?
I'm an aye.
You're an aye.
Oh, yes, we got Gallagher. Woo-hoo.
All right, we'll celebrate later. All righty, thank you so much for that. With that, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you all. Hey, Caltrans, thank you so much. Coming out, appreciate it.